Hello and welcome to the Liz Experiment YouTube channel. I'm your host, Liz, better known as the Liz in the Liz Experiment, and this is the channel where I record field notes for my journey towards architecting my best life. This week, I'm recording again from Hood River, Oregon, where I'm still pet sitting my good friend Keezy, and lessons learned and work this week really revolve around validating and being vindicated in my leaving the area a few years ago. I also learned how to have better critical conversations from a book that a dear friend recommended. I kind of also learned that pet sitting well-trained pets is a breeze. And finally, I was reminded just how many awesome friends I have holding me up and supporting me on this journey of mine. So I'll talk more about all of that in this episode. Let's get started.
Life's a foolish game. Do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change. Turn the ship another way.
Okay, so there were a lot of things that I learned and worked on this week. And the very first one that I mentioned in the intro was this validation or vindication that I received about my deciding to go on this journey towards architecting my best life. So last week, I actually left the house that I'm in for a few days, and I was house sitting at this incredible house in White Salmon, my old town. It's just right across the river, maybe 10 minutes away. And I was basically back where I started, exactly where I started, same zip code and everything. And over the past probably month or so, I've been having these types of thoughts, but what I realized is, although I love it here, I do. I love the people here. It's a beautiful region, like nature-wise. It's a great little towns that are here. It's not 100% for me. Now, that doesn't mean I won't end up living here part of the year or something, or it doesn't mean that I, hate it. Of course not. But I really was reflecting on that and seeing that there was this gap in my existence, and much of that gap has come from much of that gap has begun to be filled. I don't know how to say that, but I've begun to fill that gap by traveling and putting myself in super uncomfortable situations. Because although I love this place that I'm in right now, and I'm so grateful to be back, it's a very comfortable world for me. Small town, has everything I need, like-minded people. There are few challenges for me living here. And without those challenges, I don't carry forth and figure out who I am or what I need, what structures I need to be my very best version. So that feeling and that vindication has been quite a burden lifted, actually. I didn't realize I was carrying it until this very moment. This is an exclusive, but I really didn't. I didn't realize that I was carrying that around. Like, did I make the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? And coming back almost 2 years later, even though I've been back before, but coming back and having 2 months here to really sit and reflect on that has been pretty awesome. So that was thing number one that I learned and worked on. The second thing was this idea of how to have better critical conversations. And it kind of feels slightly awkward to bring it up here, but I don't think so, because, well, it's because it's something I learned and something I worked on. So my business partner recommended this book, and another friend recommended it to her for one of our book clubs that we're in for business, female entrepreneur business mastermind thing. And I really have taken to this book. They break down basically that a critical conversation is one where the stakes are high, so there's something at stake. Two opinions differ, or more opinions differ, and emotions run high. So those conversations that you get in where you're like, oh, I just don't want to do this. Usually we either decide to flip out or take things personally, get defensive and be mean, or we get really quiet and don't do anything. And so this book breaks down how to have better conversations when stakes are high and all the things I listed off. So I really was working on that this week, especially with navigating the logistics of pet sitting in this rural area and not having a car and having to get to people's homes while they're traveling, and they're really anxious because they're going to miss their pets. And there were a lot of instances of critical conversations. And what I worked on really was the first step they talk about is starting with heart and thinking about what would a reasonable person, like somebody who I think is a reasonable person, why would they act or say something in the way that they're saying it? And so basically de-escalating my feelings around somebody's text message, which can be totally misinterpreted. So starting with heart and kindness and compassion. And then the other thing that I worked on in this regard was figuring out my own story. Like, what story am I telling myself in my head? I should link to that. If I could find that video, I'll link to it. I did a previous video where I was basically like, we are all telling ourselves stories in our head, and that's what kind of defines our reality. By the way, this book confirms and validates that, as do, many of the new age, or not even new age, old mystic teachings or just teachings of self-growth. But anyway, point of the story is I really worked on looking at my stories, understanding why I was thinking what I was thinking, which was then causing my feelings, which were then could cause future behaviors. So that was a big lesson learned and a big exercise this week. The other thing I learned was that the dog that I was house sitting in White Salmon is so well trained that it was so easy to sit for her. And I'm sure there are other pets that I've trained. Most of the pets that I've sat for are great, but this dog was exceptionally well trained, and what it allowed me to do was recognize how much anxiety I have when pet sitting, because I want to make sure I do everything exactly right. And this time I didn't have to do much. I mean, I had to walk the dog and let her out and feed her, but she was just so easy that it allowed me to be in this reflective space of, Liz, you can just calm down. Like, you're a compassionate person, you're a hardworking person, you're going to take care of these pets. And I was able to enjoy my time, basically. And so I'm going to use that lesson going forward with how many times have I said basically in this episode, by the way? With as many of, if not all of, the pets that I sit going forward. And then finally, I was reminded just how many people, incredible friends that I have in my life who are supporting me along this journey. I don't have a car while I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, but friends, my dear friends, have been so wonderful with helping me get around and figuring out logistics and helping me vent and rant. And I had friends/neighbors who offered to take me wherever I need to go. And it's just been a really humbling experience in that regard, to come back to a place and reconnect with people that I just love and who have supported me the entire time. I was able to take walks with the dog and also with old friends around White Salmon, which just was like, I don't know, it was this really cool, like, wow, I knew I didn't have to worry about leaving a place. I can always go back to a place. That kind of, that feeling. My friends who I stay with in Lisle, well, they're really more like family. They offered to take me. Well, we all just went on a hike, one of my favorite hikes in the region. I'm going on wine tasting tomorrow with another friend. It basically, all of this, I'm reminded how all of these friends and all of these people, wherever they are in the world, and I am blessed to have so many people in my life who support me. They all hold me up and they allow me to keep going on this journey. And so, they just allow me to stop and consider and be. Their friendship gives me the time and space for that. And so with that was my week. I will most likely be here in Hood River again next week, and we'll see what I learn in between now and then while I'm house sitting Keezy for a while. I would like to thank Hands Adam featuring Snowflake for the music that I use in the intro and outro. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have anything to share, I would love to hear it. You know where to comment. You've been using YouTube for a while, I'm sure. And of course, if you want to get these videos in your YouTube alert thingy every week, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. And until next week, thank you so very much for watching. Your support also, it's what I need to keep going, and I'm grateful. See you next week.